What happens when the man who built the hotel chain from scratch pretends to be the new front desk trainee and watches his own manager lie to a guest's face? Franklin Harlow had grown his hotel business from a single roadside motel to 19 bustling locations across 5 states. He used to mop floors and change sheets himself. But after the 10th property opened, he stopped being on site. He told himself it was necessary. Delegation. Strategy. Growth. But lately, guest satisfaction scores from location number 14 San Diego had been dropping. Complaints came in more often. Rooms weren't ready on time. Guests mentioned rude staff, poor hygiene, and management that didn't care. Franklin had never met the team there. It was a newer staff, hired by the district manager, who'd assured him everything was fine. He didn't believe it. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair a dull brown, wore thick glasses, and dressed in a wrinkled polo with khakis a size too big. A fake name tag, Troy trainee, completed the look. He even added a slight Midwest accent and a limp. No one at that location had ever seen him in person. He made sure of that. He arrived on a Wednesday morning just before 8. "Hey," said the young woman at the front desk, barely looking up. Her voice was flat. "You the new trainee guy?" "Yeah. Troy. First day." "Cool," she said, tapping her nails on the counter. "I'm Chloe. I guess you shadow me till Bryce gets in." Franklin nodded and stood behind the desk with her. The lobby looked clean at first glance, but the details bugged him. Smudged glass doors. Dust around the baseboards. A faint smell of mildew near the coffee dispenser. A man in a gray suit approached the desk, holding a keycard. "Hi. Room 407 smells like mold. I asked for a non-smoking, clean room. It reeks in there." Chloe sighed. "Housekeeping probably just missed a spot. Bryce will be in soon. Can I just get a new room?" She glanced at the screen. "We're fully booked." Franklin leaned in and saw at least 7 rooms marked as clean but unoccupied. He said nothing. The man frowned. "So I'm stuck smelling mold all night?" Chloe shrugged. "Sorry. Wish I could help." The man left, clearly frustrated. Franklin kept quiet, watching. At 9:15, Bryce walked in mid-30s, gelled hair, sunglasses perched on his head indoors. "Yo, Chloe. Who's this?" "Trainee. Some guy from corporate sent him." "Troy." Bryce looked Franklin over without much interest. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just trying to get the hang of things," Franklin said with a polite nod. Bryce tossed his bag behind the desk and pulled Chloe aside. Franklin could still hear them. "Don't tell people rooms are open if they complain about smells," Bryce said. "Just say we're full. Last time I moved someone, they still left a bad review." "Don't need another." Chloe nodded. "Got it." Franklin's jaw clenched. He turned and started checking the system himself while pretending to learn. He clicked through the logs. Housekeeping had marked several rooms as cleaned yesterday, but the timestamps were off, some marked within 2 minutes of each other. That wasn't possible. He noted it. A little after noon, Bryce told him. "Go stock the coffee station. Then take lunch." As Franklin filled the stir sticks and sugar packets, a woman in her late 50s walked up to the desk. "Hi, I just checked into room 212. There's hair in the tub and the sheets don't look fresh." Bryce smiled. "Ma'am, all our rooms are deep cleaned daily. I can assure you that's not possible." She looked confused. "I'm standing here telling you what I saw. I can send someone to re-clean it, but the room's already in perfect shape." Franklin turned. "I can take a look if you'd like, ma'am. I'm new, but I wouldn't mind checking." Bryce shot him a look but said nothing. The woman smiled. "I'd appreciate that." Franklin followed her to the room. The moment he stepped in, the smell hit him: stale air, faint body odor. The sheets were wrinkled. He pulled back the comforter. A small brown stain on the fitted sheet. In the bathroom, long dark hairs curled in the tub. I'm so sorry, he said genuinely. This shouldn't happen. I stay at this chain often, she said softly. Never had this before. Back at the desk, Franklin pulled Bryce aside. That room wasn't cleaned. At all. Bryce raised a brow. You don't know how things work here yet. Sometimes housekeeping forgets to hit the done button. Doesn't mean it's dirty. I was just in there. It's dirty. Look, trainee, stay in your lane. Don't make it harder. Franklin didn't answer. But he walked back to the desk and took over. Chloe left for her break. Bryce walked into the back. A new guest walked in, a woman with 2 kids, looking tired. Hi, she said. Checking in? Bookings under Madison Lane. Franklin checked. 1 queen bed, 2 nights? Yes. We've been driving 12 hours. Just want to crash. He looked at the screen. Room 309 was her assignment. It was marked clean. But he didn't trust it. He stood up from behind the desk. 1 moment, he said. He grabbed a spare key and walked up to 309 himself. The room was made, but it smelled like someone had smoked in it recently. The bathroom floor was sticky. He came back down. Let me move you to a better room, he said. I'll upgrade you, no charge. She blinked. Really? You deserve a clean, fresh room. Give me 5 minutes. He found a suite, double-checked it himself, then handed her the key. As she walked away, Bryce returned and looked at him sharply. What are you doing? Franklin stared him down. Doing your job. Bryce stepped closer. Think you're gonna last long here acting like a hero? Franklin didn't blink. We'll see. He had seen enough. But he wasn't going to blow his cover yet. Not until he watched Bryce lie again with his own eyes right from behind the desk. Tomorrow, he'd be back early. And this time, he'd be the one standing at the desk when it happened. Franklin arrived before dawn. He walked from the side entrance, where the delivery trucks usually dropped supplies. No one noticed him slip through the dim hallway behind the laundry room. The front lobby lights were still off, the desk unmanned. He sat in the break room, sipping burnt coffee from a styrofoam cup, pretending to scroll through a fake training app on his phone. A copy of the weekly schedule was taped to the corkboard beside him. Bryce had the opening shift, along with a new hire named Tasha who was scheduled to train today. Franklin made a mental note. By 6:30, the lobby lights flickered on. Bryce walked in 5 minutes later, holding a breakfast sandwich, chewing as he dropped his keys on the desk. Tasha arrived shortly after, young, maybe early 20s, with a notepad in hand and a nervous energy that made her movements quick and uncertain. Hey, she said, looking between them. I was told to meet a manager for front desk training? Bryce barely glanced up. Yeah, that's me. You're early. Give me a sec. Franklin stood quietly off to the side, pretending to restock the lobby pamphlets. He watched as Bryce typed on the system without saying a word to Tasha for nearly 10 minutes. Finally, Bryce turned. All right, here's how this works. People come in, they've got a reservation, you check 'em in. If they don't, you tell 'em we're full. Even if we aren't. Tasha blinked. Why would we say that? Because walk-ins mess with the numbers. Corporate tracks pre-bookings. You'll get it. Franklin didn't move. He just adjusted a stack of local attraction flyers and kept listening. A woman in a hotel uniform approached the desk from the hallway. Her ID badge read, Araceli Housekeeping Lead. She spoke softly. Bryce, we're short again today. Only 2 of us right now. Jose's out sick, and we still have 10 rooms from yesterday that didn't get turned. Bryce leaned against the desk, not even facing her. Then do what you can. Start with the ones on 3. We've got a big checkout coming. Araceli hesitated. We're going to fall behind again. Welcome to hospitality, he said without looking up. Clock in or clock out. I don't have time for complaints. Araceli turned without another word and walked back down the hallway. Franklin followed her. Hey, he said, catching up near the elevator. She looked surprised. You're the new trainee, right? Yeah. I overheard. Is it always like that? She let out a long breath. Lately? Worse. We've had 4 people quit in 3 weeks. No replacements. We're cleaning 16, 18 rooms a day each. I've been here 5 years. Never seen it like this. Why don't more people speak up? We do. No one listens. Bryce tells corporate we're lazy. Says we exaggerate. I've emailed HR. Nothing changes. Franklin nodded slowly. Back at the desk, a man in a dark coat approached. Checking out, he said. Room 220. But just so you know, the shower didn't drain the whole time. Water up to my ankles. Bryce tapped the keyboard lazily. Thanks for letting us know. Can I get a receipt? We don't print those anymore. You'll get it by email. The man frowned. You sure? Last time I stayed, they printed it. Bryce sighed. We're going green. Email only. You'll get it. Next. Franklin stepped forward. Sir, if you'd prefer a printed receipt, I can make one for you. It's no trouble. The man smiled faintly. Thanks. Appreciate that. Once the guest left, Bryce turned. What are you doing? Helping. That's what we're here for, right? Bryce's voice dropped. You don't get to make those calls. You're a trainee. You follow. Franklin didn't respond. Tasha stood frozen, notebook in hand, eyes darting between them. An hour later, a middle-aged couple walked in with 2 large suitcases. The woman had a boot on her right foot and leaned heavily on her husband. Hi, the husband said. We have a reservation. Susan and Greg Halpern. Bryce pulled up the booking. Right. You booked a king? Yes, Greg said. But if possible, we'd really appreciate something close to the elevator. My wife had surgery last week. Bryce didn't even glance up. We're tight on rooms. You're in 422. Susan spoke gently. That's the far end of the hall, isn't it? Yeah. All the closer ones are full. Franklin turned to the screen. Room 204 was clean, unoccupied, and 3 doors from the elevator. There's a closer one available, Franklin said. I can move them. Bryce stepped in front of the screen. No, you can't. That one's being held. For what? For a loyalty guest who might check in early. Franklin looked at the couple. Let me see what I can do. He walked into the back office to print the key cards himself. Bryce followed, shutting the door behind them. You're out of line. They asked for a basic accommodation. You lied. You don't make decisions. You're here to watch and learn. Franklin stared at him. I've learned enough. Bryce moved closer. You think you're better than me? You've been here 2 days. Franklin stepped to the side and opened the door. Tasha was standing just outside. She held her notepad but didn't look up. Bryce walked off, muttering something under his breath. Franklin walked the Halperns to their new room personally. On the way back, he passed Araceli in the hallway, pushing a cart stacked with towels and cleaning supplies. You okay? He asked. She wiped her forehead with the back of her glove. I've cleaned 7 rooms already. It's not even noon. Do they give you breaks? 15 minutes. But only if we're caught up. Franklin looked down the hallway. The carpet was worn, the light above flickering faintly. He returned to the lobby. Tasha sat alone behind the desk now. She looked up nervously. Is it always like this? She asked. Franklin pulled up a chair beside her. No, he said. But it's not supposed to be this way either. They sat in silence for a moment. A man in a gray maintenance uniform walked up. Bryce told me to skip the HVAC check and fix the vending machine on 3. It's been eating bills. Franklin asked. Isn't the HVAC inspection due today? Yeah. But he said no one's complained yet, so it can wait. Franklin nodded. Thanks for telling me. The man walked off with a toolbox in hand. By mid-afternoon, Franklin had seen enough. He walked to the back office, closed the door, and called his district director. I want you here by morning, he said. Don't tell anyone. Bring HR. Then he hung up. He walked back into the lobby. Bryce was lounging behind the desk, scrolling through his phone. Franklin stood across from him. You booked a loyalty guest in room 204, right? Bryce glanced up. Yeah. I told you. I just checked. No such reservation exists. You lied to a couple with a mobility issue. They didn't seem that upset. Franklin didn't move. You lied about drain issues. You ignore maintenance schedules. You overwork staff. You turn away paying guests to protect your numbers. Bryce's face hardened. What's your problem, man? You think you're some kind of hero? Franklin reached into his pocket and pulled out his real ID badge. He dropped it on the counter. Bryce picked it up and froze. Franklin's name, photo, and title founder and CEO stared back at him. You're done here, Franklin said. Effective immediately. Bryce didn't speak. I'll have security escort you off the property. Anything you left here will be mailed. Bryce opened his mouth, but Franklin cut him off. Save it. He turned to Tasha. You're doing fine, he said. We'll get you proper training. Not from someone like him. He stepped into the hallway and found Araceli. Can you meet me in the break room in 10? She nodded, eyes wide. He called the rest of the staff together. They stood unsure, a few of them still in aprons or gloves. Franklin stood at the center of the room. My name is Franklin Harlow. I started this company 27 years ago. I've been watching how things run here. And I'm not happy. No one said a word. Starting now, we're going to fix that. Together. He looked at Araceli. You're being promoted to operations lead. We're hiring 3 more housekeeping staff. You'll help pick them. She blinked, speechless. To the rest of you, you've been working under bad leadership. That ends today. You'll get the support you need. And you'll be heard. He paused. No more lies. No more shortcuts. And no more pretending. The room stayed silent, but something shifted in the air. Then someone clapped. Then another. Franklin didn't smile. He just nodded. Because this wasn't a happy ending. It was just day one. By the next morning, the front desk had a new rhythm. Franklin wasn't behind the counter anymore. He sat in an unused office beside the employee break room, door open, listening and watching through the security monitor feed. The district director, Elena, arrived just after 7, wearing a navy blazer and a neutral expression. She didn't introduce herself to anyone. That was the plan. For now, she'd posed as a visiting auditor sent by corporate. Franklin had already briefed her in detail. She would observe interactions quietly, take notes, and report any concerning behavior for immediate escalation. He wanted a second pair of eyes. Not because he doubted his own judgment, but because he wanted no room for excuses afterward. The morning shift started slowly. Chloe showed up 10 minutes late, chewing gum and carrying a half-empty iced coffee. She didn't acknowledge Tasha, who was already behind the desk, carefully arranging the key cards in order. Elena stood near the lobby fireplace, pretending to read a brochure rack. Chloe didn't notice her. Franklin leaned closer to the monitor as Chloe logged into the system with one hand, her phone in the other. You're not supposed to have your phone out at the desk, Tasha said quietly. Chloe didn't look up. You're not my manager. I was just, listen, you've been here what, a day? Don't start acting like you run things. Franklin leaned back in his chair. He picked up the phone and dialed the housekeeping extension. Hey, Araceli. I know you're slammed, but can you come by the office when you get a break? 2 minutes tops. I'll be there as soon as I drop off the linens. He hung up and turned his attention back to the monitor. Elena had moved closer to the desk, still quiet, now pretending to thumb through a local transit map. An older man wearing a travel backpack approached the counter. "Morning. I'm checking in. Name's Anthony Dale." Tasha checked the system. "Yes, Mr. Dale. You're in a king room on the 4th floor for 3 nights. Chloe leaned over her shoulder. "No, change him to 212. That room's closer to the elevator. Easier for older guests." Tasha hesitated. "But that room's already assigned to, doesn't matter. Move it. The guy who had it hasn't checked in yet." Franklin narrowed his eyes. 212 had been pre-blocked for a guest with a disability request. He'd confirmed it himself the night before. Chloe was overriding it without checking notes. Tasha looked unsure. "It says here the person arriving later needed an accessible layout." Chloe scoffed. "They always say that. Most of the time it's just a preference. You'll learn." Franklin stood and walked out of the office. He stepped into a hallway, met Elena's eyes across the lobby, and gave her a nod. She took a step forward. "Excuse me," she said, addressing Chloe directly. "Why did you reassign that room without checking the accessibility notes?" Chloe's tone shifted immediately. "I figured it didn't matter. He looked like he needed it too." Elena kept her posture calm. "We don't decide who needs what by looking at them. I was trying to help. That's not how we help. We follow protocol." Franklin stepped into view. Chloe blinked when she saw him, confusion flashing across her face. "I thought you were just some temp." "I was," Franklin said. "Now I'm not." She looked at Elena. "Who is he?" Elena didn't answer. Franklin walked behind the desk and pulled up the guest profile Chloe had modified. He pointed to the note in bold. "Mobility assistance requested. Requires lowered sink and grab bars." He turned the screen so she could see it. "You reassigned a medically necessary room to someone else because you assumed they didn't need it." Chloe crossed her arms. "It's not like I kicked them out. You didn't know if they were in a wheelchair. You didn't know if they had surgery last week. You didn't ask. You didn't check. You assumed, and you dismissed protocol." "That's a problem." Chloe didn't respond. Elena spoke. "We've also reviewed the security footage from yesterday. You ignored 3 separate guest concerns. You were rude to a trainee. You were on your phone during guest interactions." Chloe's face flushed. "You're going to fire me for being on my phone?" "No," Franklin said. "We're going to fire you for endangering a disabled guest's stay, violating company policy, and treating this job like it's beneath you." "You can't just—" "I can," Franklin said. "And I am." He turned to Elena. "Escort her off the property. She's not to return." Chloe opened her mouth again, but Elena had already stepped behind the desk and picked up her bag. "Let's go." As they walked toward the back hallway, Franklin turned to Tasha. "You did the right thing. Don't ever let someone convince you to ignore your gut when it comes to doing things right." Tasha nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just want to do a good job." "You already are." He returned to the office. Araceli was waiting just outside the door, wiping her hands on a towel. "I told the new housekeeper to finish the 5th floor." "What's up?" Franklin motioned her in. "I want to rotate some of the responsibility off your back. You've been covering for too many gaps." She sat down slowly. "I'm used to it." "That's not a good thing." He pulled out a printed sheet. "We've approved a hiring push. 3 new team members, staggered shifts. I want you to help pick them. We'll pay overtime for the interviews if needed." Araceli looked up sharply. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack." She glanced at the paper. "That would change everything." "I know. But it's going to take time. We won't have them tomorrow. Maybe not even this week. Can you hold the line until then?" She gave a small nod. "Yeah. But I'll need more supplies. We're burning through linens too fast. Make a full list. Order whatever you need." When she left, Franklin sat back and closed his eyes for a moment. The emotional weight of what he'd seen in 2 days pressed down on him. The decay hadn't been a leak, it had been structural neglect, brick by brick. He called Elena back into the office. "We're not done," he said. "Not even close. I want a full staff review by end of week. I want a guest follow-up system in place. And I want anonymous staff feedback through corporate HR, not routed through this location." Elena nodded. "I'll draft it." "And Tasha?" "She's green but sharp. Let's get her into the mentorship program. I want her trained by someone competent." Elena paused. "We could bring in Sheila from the Los Angeles location. She trained 3 of our best." "Do it." They heard a knock at the office door. Tasha stood outside, hesitant. "I didn't want to interrupt. But the guest with the disability note, the one originally booked in 212, just arrived." Franklin stood. "I'll talk to them myself." He walked to the front desk and found an older woman with a walking cane standing beside a younger man, her son, most likely. She looked tired but calm. "Welcome," Franklin said. "We've got your room ready. I just wanted to personally apologize. There was almost a mix-up with your reservation." She tilted her head. "What kind of mix-up?" "Someone tried to reassign your room. It didn't happen. But it shouldn't have been considered in the first place." She nodded slowly. "I appreciate you telling me. If there's anything missing in your room, or anything that doesn't work for you, I'll have it fixed within the hour." She smiled faintly. "It's rare someone admits a mistake before it becomes a problem." Franklin handed her the key. "We're starting a new chapter, ma'am. And that starts with accountability." She nodded and followed her son toward the elevator. Franklin turned to Tasha. "You up for closing shift tonight?" "Sure. If you think I can handle it." "I do. And you won't be alone." He walked back to the office and picked up the phone. "Get me Sheila from LA. Tell her I need her on a plane by tomorrow morning." By Friday morning, the staff at the San Diego location moved differently. Not faster, not louder, just more alert. There was a quiet weight in the air now, like people were waiting to see if everything they'd been told would actually happen. Franklin arrived just after 7. Not in disguise this time. No fake name tag, no limp, no dyed hair. He walked through the front door in a navy button-down and dark slacks, holding a plain clipboard under his arm. One guest looked up as he passed, but most didn't recognize him. That was fine. The message today wasn't for them. Tasha was already at the desk, reviewing the early check-ins. She looked up when he approached and stood a little straighter. "You're early," she said. "You opened on time." "So did I." She gave a small nod and returned to the screen. Franklin waited until the morning shift had settled before walking into the staff break room. Araceli was folding a stack of fitted sheets on the table, a cleaning checklist tucked beside her. Her uniform sleeves were damp from a spill. "You didn't have to do these yourself," he said. She didn't stop folding. The new girl called out. "Her kid had a fever. I didn't want the carts running behind." He set down the clipboard. "We've finalized 2 hires. The third's coming in for an interview tomorrow. You'll be part of that." She glanced over. "They've already cleared background?" "HR pushed it through. I asked them to." She nodded once, then went back to her work. Franklin walked back out to the lobby just as Sheila arrived. She wore a crisp blazer, a travel duffel slung over one shoulder. Her presence was quiet but certain. She didn't need to assert herself. She just moved with purpose. Franklin met her at the desk. "You'll shadow Tasha for 2 days," he said. "Then she'll shadow you at the LA property for a week." Tasha looked up. "Wait, I'm going to LA? You'll learn more in 5 days with Sheila than you would here in 5 months. It's not a promotion yet. It's preparation." Tasha swallowed hard. "Okay." Sheila offered a hand. "We'll make it count." By late morning, the lobby saw its usual wave of early check-ins. A man in his 50s approached the desk with a tight expression and a wheeled suitcase. "Reservation under Calvin Owens." I requested early check-in. Tasha tapped the keyboard. Yes, Mr. Owens. I see you're in 2:30. That room is cleaned and ready. He leaned on the counter. I also asked for a feather-free room. I have allergies. Tasha hesitated. That's not noted on your reservation, but I can call housekeeping and swap the pillows out now. I mentioned it when I booked. Twice. Franklin stepped beside her. We'll take care of it. I'll bring them up myself. The man raised an eyebrow. You. I own the place, Franklin said, already dialing the back line. The request was simple, but the act of meeting it himself said more than the gesture. Within minutes he returned to the desk with a sealed bag of hypoallergenic pillows and handed it directly to Mr. Owens. Thank you, the man said, still surprised. Most places just say we'll try. We don't try here. We do. Franklin turned to find the maintenance tech, the same one who'd mentioned HVAC earlier in the week, standing by the elevator with a clipboard. You got a minute? The man asked. Franklin nodded and followed. They walked to the mechanical room near the stairwell. The tech unlocked the door and pointed to the inspection log stuck to the inside of the panel. I ran the check this morning. Found a pressure imbalance on the third-floor unit. It's not critical yet, but if we don't bleed the system, it's going to short cycle. You flagged this before? 2 weeks ago. Bryce told me to ignore it. Said we didn't have budget for a repair and guests hadn't complained. Franklin scribbled something on the clipboard. You've got clearance to bring in a contractor. Use the preferred vendor list. The tech blinked. Seriously? You flagged it. You own the fix. I'll back the invoice. The man gave a small nod, then went to work. By early afternoon, Elena returned from a meeting with HR. She walked into Franklin's office holding a manila folder. We finished the staff review, she said. 2 more employees back of house showed patterns of neglect. One's been falsifying room checks. The other's been skipping sanitation steps in common areas. Names? She handed over the printed summary. Franklin read the notes. Terminate both. Today. Understood. Any pushback? One of them's already no-call no-showed twice this month. The other. Might argue. But we have documentation. Then we're covered. Elena paused. And Chloe filed a complaint. Said her dismissal was unfair. Franklin looked up. Was it? No, then we don't entertain it. Elena nodded once and left. Franklin returned to the lobby just as Araceli emerged from the elevator with a clipboard and a quiet intensity. She walked directly to the desk. Room 407 had a broken toilet handle. I swapped the guest to 316 and flagged 407 as out of service. Already called maintenance. Tasha blinked. You handled all that already? Araceli looked at her. If we wait for someone else to fix things, we stay behind. Franklin studied her carefully. What would you say to a full-time assistant? He asked. She hesitated. Like a supervisor? No. Someone to take half your load so you're not forced to triage everything alone. She considered. I'd need someone reliable. Not someone who quits when the laundry backs up. You'll help choose them. She nodded. Then yes. I'd say yes. The front doors opened again. A teenage girl in a red hoodie stepped inside, holding a service dog harness. Her eyes scanned the room quickly. Tasha moved around the counter. Hi, can I help you? The girl stepped forward. We have a reservation under Lillian Hayes. My mom's parking. Tasha checked the screen. Got it. 2 queens, 3 nights. I see the service dog note. We've placed you near the end of the hall to minimize noise. The girl smiled. Thank you. Some places act weird about the dog. Tasha knelt slightly to greet the golden retriever. He's working. I get it. Franklin watched the exchange and said nothing. She didn't need correction. She needed trust. Later that evening, as the sun started to fall behind the low-rise buildings across the street, Franklin sat in the empty conference room reviewing the final updates. Sheila entered quietly and closed the door behind her. "She's sharp," she said. "Tasha? Listens more than she talks. Learns fast. She'll do fine." Franklin leaned back. "I want her to stay long term. But not if we don't fix the system around her." "You're not just rebuilding this property," Sheila said. "You're rebuilding its culture." He nodded slowly. "It's harder than I remembered." She looked at him. "You stepped away too long." "I know." She walked to the door, then paused. "You going back undercover again?" "Not soon," he said. "But I'll be back. And no one will know when." After she left, he looked out the window. The lobby below had softened. No raised voices. No chaos. Just quiet movement. A guest stepped off the elevator and asked a question. Tasha answered. A moment later, they both laughed at something he couldn't hear. Franklin picked up the phone and called the front desk. It rang once. "San Diego front desk, this is Tasha." "Hey," he said. "This is Franklin. Just checking in." "Oh, hi. Everything okay?" "Better than okay. I just wanted to say thank you for sticking through a rough week." There was a pause. "Thank you for not looking away." He hung up. Then he turned off the light and locked the door behind him.